practices for winning with Meta Ads. Let us welcome Mr. Chandra Bhanu and Mr. Krishna Gupta. Come on everyone, let's give a huge round of applause for them.
How's the energy? Thank you so much for everybody making it here. Prashant, hi. How are you doing? First, great thanks to Customer Labs team, Vishnu, Hari, Gautam. All of you guys have really pulled it off great. Thank you so much for giving me and Beyond Labs this opportunity to share what we have been doing over the few months or years per se, and wanted to share everything. I'll just set a small context of how this and the upcoming session is going to be like. So the first one is we're going to go with basics, my specific learnings with Meta and how we are doing a few things, I'll not say differently, but just one step ahead, how we are approaching a few brands, and that's the session. And continuation, we'll just learn very briefly about what first party data is. And then Shubhro, who is doing the next session, will continue the lead entirety of it on first party data. So just a very quick introduction. My name is Bhanu and I'm the co-founder of Beyond Ads. We are a performance marketing agency based out of Hyderabad. 3.5 years into the business, started my Meta Ads journey since 2015. Started doing drop shipping in the US, then started in India. Been running a couple of stores myself for 3-4 years. Understood that product is not my thing. I am a very marketing first and I love Meta dashboard and everything. But I played a very kind of a founder role, what everybody is going through today. I did those abandoned cart calls and all of those things that clients say us today. I've already been there, so I know that journey, how it feels, what it does. So that really helped me a lot. From there, I've been working in an agency, built it to about 120 plus people, and took a break and then started my own. And today, this is where we are. So I'll quickly set the tone. Cool. So, fortunately, we have been working with a few, I would say, marquee Indian e-commerce brands, and we had an opportunity to grow them for about last 2.5 years or 3 years per se, and it gave me a leverage and an opportunity to actually increase spends, right? So on an average today, we are spending anywhere between 14 to 18 crores. It keeps fluctuating, but 85% of it is Meta and the rest is Google, and a very small part of it is Amazon. And those are the 3 core services we usually do. But Meta is the core focus of how we are able to like really scale. And the objective of this session is what did I learn, my individual learning that we have learned through, which I'm passing it on to my team, what my team is doing and how we are structuring this entire segmentation from end to end for a brand on Meta Ads, and how we are leveraging Meta to kind of grow and scale them. So in the next few slides, we'll be cover what's the solid testing framework, how are we using post IDs, how do we maintain the optimal number of ads per ad set, the audience versus creative, how are we implementing exclusions, the eternal challenge of CBO, ABO, how do we scale, a few about Advantage Plus shopping campaigns. So we'll just very briefly start going through that. So the first one, again, while everybody talks about the solid testing framework and, everybody speaks about, you got to test, but what is it that you're actually testing, right? That's the question. Are you testing a product, a category? Are you testing campaign structures? Are you testing creatives? Are you testing budget? What is the objective? Is first, we will have to all come into a singular agenda that, hey, this is what I want to figure out, right? For me, after looking at multiple variables, for me, the key, at least over the last 12 months, has been the creative, right? Like how we have been speaking, and today, given the first party data segmentation that we are speaking through, the world is moving towards automation. I'm sure all of us must have been looking at Advantage Plus shopping campaigns where you don't have a lot of control on age group, gender, location, or whatsoever controls which you are not able to do. The only place where you'll be able to talk to your consumer is through creative. So for me, my testing framework is creative. And the reason I'm indexing on this today is because if you look at our individual patterns, like everybody, if you look at it in your own screens, you will see what is the time that you spend on individual apps that you are operating, right? Be it Instagram, Facebook. So everybody is consuming data, everybody is consuming content. So the idea is while somebody is doing and consuming something, how do I grab their attention, right? In you keep your creative to in a ABO or a CBO or a ASC. The idea is that particular campaign in and the creative inside that particular campaign, is it able to grab the attention of the consumer, right? So the needle is only moving if your creative is solid. So the idea is, can we test different hooks? Can we test different ad creative formats? Can we iterate on the winners? Can we start implementing on iterating on the winners? What is working? What is not working? And how do you scale from that particular creative is what a solid testing framework would be. So for me, it's like double down on your creative, pick one battle, right? You can't win multiple battles at the same time. One battle that you have to, if you were to pick where you are going to find success, is always going to be your creative. So that is the king. That creative is the king. And in 2025, the only thing that will make things work is creative, but and just not creative, but creative with volume, right? And when I say why creative with volume is because if you're making a kick-ass creative, okay, this is extremely the creative which is going to convert. I'm sure everybody must have experiences where that creative has never worked for you, right? So the idea is, can you break that creative into 5 different concepts and actually start iterating on those? And can you build volume of creatives so that you are actually spreading your probability of winning? That's the whole piece when people ask you to test different hooks, right? Like, what's the objective of testing different hooks, right? Instead of depending on one particular hook, you're dividing it into 3 hooks, for example, and the probability is 33, 33, 33 that one of it should definitely win for you. So that's the whole thesis of testing different hooks, iterating on the winners, and trying to scale them up further. I just want to, kind of show you one kind of a creative testing framework we have built at different levels of funnels and different stages on how we are playing this. So this is one of our brand, the Good Bug. They are into healthcare, prebiotics, probiotics, and we have been, 2022 November is when they started with us, about 4-5 lakh rupees of revenue. Today we are doing about 9 crores monthly revenue just on the website, and together as a brand they are doing anywhere between 13 to 14 crores on a monthly basis. Now, it's been a couple of years, we are just focusing on one singular product, and how are we approaching that even after 2 years, after creating a lot of awareness, right? So, if you see, all the creatives look everything pretty much similar, right? Now, these are all the variations which we are testing for one particular concept, right? So the brand collaborated with this influencer, and this is the breakdown of how we are doing. So the first, I'm not sure, yeah. So the first one, if you see, is basically the master cut, and in the master cut we have 2 variations. The first one is, both of them are 90 seconds. This first version that you see, I actually wanted to play the video also, but again I couldn't. But I would really recommend you guys to go into ad library. You'll see all these ads. Try to just understand it from the ad library. So the first 2 cuts are basically the master cuts, where that's primarily for my top of the funnel audiences, where awareness is largely the objective that I'm going through. Now, what's the difference between the first one and the second one? They're just trying to. This one is just like talking to the camera. This one has a few B-rolls where her day-to-day life in terms of what she is speaking to is in correlation to the entire ad. So those are the two variations that we are largely trying to work upon. So when you are launching your ad, you just try to launch, we start with launching the master versions, trying to understand where the consumer is stopping, until what point is where there is a good hook, what and until what point is the consumer watching the entire thing, and how do I follow up and target with them. So that's when the next three variations would come, which is for the retargeting, where we are trying to like literally test between the timelines. So you see two versions at the end which are 12 seconds, and the next two versions which are 30 seconds. Now the idea on this one is how can I really break down and retarget the consumers, and two objectives for retargeting, right? There are already people who are there in my funnel, but I'm taking inspiration from my first top of the funnel, trying to understand what would be that sweet spot hook which my consumer would convert, and then you break them down into further next three different variations and see which one is working out for you. And we are also trying to test a timeline, because there will also be people who would definitely be at a consideration stage, right? Like at the last stage, what some kind of skepticism it could be it a discount, be it whether I'm going to get my result, whatever it is, right? For them, I do really no need to grab too much amount of their time. I just need a small amount of their time, which is more like a nudge that, hey, I have got this, right? And that's 12-second cuts that we are, sort of trying to do. Now, this is usually we are speaking about three hooks in general. Whenever which is a standard practice in the market, we have increased that to 7 hooks, right? Now, what that helped me is, so my short versions are my best performing versions, and that's where we went all out and we have spent our entire money trying to make out winners out of it, right? And very surprisingly, in this test that we have done, our 12-second cuts have not worked. Now, while I might build a lot more theoretical theses, it just didn't work, and I'm not biased towards it. Okay, it did not work, I am moving on. For a lot of times, one thing what I learned is, rather than trying to work through why those 12 seconds did not work, I try to put a lot of effort in how can I make a couple of more 30 seconds cut which will work for me, which saves a lot of time, because everybody wants to know why. My only probability is, out of 10 times, 5 times I would try to put an effort in knowing it why. I'll come to a consensus, but the rest 5 times I'm like, it's okay, right? It did not work, but I saved a bit of my budget and I'm moving on, right? So that's how you should start looking at creative framework. And the first and the foremost important thing while trying to even break through your variations is understand what stage of consumers are you trying to retarget this with. So this one is like a full funnel campaign, because you're also going to do whitelisting ads, influencer ads. We don't want to like really, double down just on forcing someone to see what they don't want to see. Rather, trying to give them an options on what you want to listen and what we can show you as a variation is the whole creative game, which fortunately the client was also able to understand and on the breakdown of this, and we were able to get through this. So this is one key thing which is currently helping us in a very larger scale. Imagine this is one example that I'm showing you. I am doing this in volume where I have 10 different creators with 10 different cuts that I'm operating at, which gives me a massive volume of ad creatives, which I am now able to put through multiple campaigns, right? Because what happens is, if for example, one variation, let's say you take your MOF variation, how many of you like really understand all the terminology like TOF, MOF? Anybody who is not clear? Cool. So please stop me if there is any question. I'll take questions at the end.
So basically you're doing the same creative and dividing it into different parts, or is it that they are saying different text in each and every creative?
No, it's the main variation done in cuts.
It's the main variation. So
Yeah, it's the main variation only. So this is the master.
if in the bottom we are giving an offer, so in the main video also she's saying this offer.
No, these ones don't include offer. So the follow-up would be, we use statics like this to show up the offer.
Alright, this goes into both.
Sorry?
This goes into Bofo.
Yeah, this goes into Bofu. So,
The first part, the complete video, the top as well as the middle, right? So the top funnel, the top creative will have the entire information. After that, that complete information you will break it up and give it in different videos.
yes, so you really try to analyze what's your hook rate, hold rate, what's the average watch time the consumer is seeing. For example, you know that the consumer is in, so as a standard practice, you know that the consumer is watching the first 20 seconds of your video, right? So the consumer is not watching the next 60 seconds of the video. So you try to make two cuts from the 60-second part so that they see the continuation for what they have seen on the master, and then you do a smaller cut for the first 30 seconds of the video. It's a,
Now you make them see the complete video.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah, right. And from a retargeting perspective, like how we mentioned, again, right? Well, I will also cover the formats piece. It's also important for you to build the recall value. See, understand Meta as a inventory platform, right? Like how you have inventory in Reels. Now, any ad that you do, you break it down by placement, you will see your first major spender will be your Instagram Reels. Your CPM, let's say, is on Instagram Reels is 100 rupees. On your feed, it will be three times higher. It will be 300 rupees. Why is that happening, right? It's not that Meta is pushing everything on Instagram Reels. It's happening because the user engagement is happening there, right? Like you compare it for yourself. Are you browsing more on your Reels stories or on your feed, right? So for me, like my pattern, when I closely observe my pattern on how I engage in the platform, entertainment for me is Reels. Like, in your washrooms, in your depression modes, or wherever I just want a break in my life. For me, it's Reels. Whatever my friends are doing or what's happening in the community, that's my stories. Any observational information, okay, stock market आज गिर गया, कोई jail पे गया, इसको Samay Raina got called out, that's feed information for me. That's how my consumption pattern is divided, right? So the larger idea always is how can you grab attention at the available inventory which Meta has, and you need to ensure what's your objective. You need a very serious buyer. You want the consumer to come in, right? So majority of the purchases at a optimum CPA where we want for us comes through feed and stories, right? Reels is kind of largely awareness where we are like, hey, this is the place where I'm not expecting my consumer to convert more, but my rest of my other entire metrics, my CTR, CPM, my cost per outbound click, to a certain extent, cost per add to cart, all of these needs to be there. Don't worry about cost per purchase at a reel, right? So whenever we look at the cost per purchase, we look at it at an ad set level. We try to map that at a placement level. That gives us an idea that, okay, I am reaching my serious buyers through these placements. I am reaching my awareness buyers at a placement level, right? So that's how you should be able to map and try to understand whether the creative is also performing or not. So the objective placement is also very interlinked, which will really help you understand whether your entire campaign ad set ad is working or not. So moving on to the next one, again, just to increase the entire recall value, right? Like you don't want to build a offer creative where there is, again, you need to grab the attention, all of this, because hey, Goodbug is giving you blah blah blah. So offer. It's a 5-10 second one. You're again consuming time. But when I show you, I've given all the variations, right? Again, if you see, there's a static variation that we're testing where you'll see a few common elements. Price is one common element that is there. That 6x which you're highlighting is basically something we are telling, hey, this is what you're going to do. This is 6 times more effective, whatever you're trying to imply. And then you're just trying to do more like a testimonial versus a very strong static hook ad. So that bottom of the funnel where we try to start pushing this at a feed and a story is where again we are able to make a difference, and that's when the consumer journey is actually impacting at this point in time. So yeah. Sorry, I can't hear you. See, that's again very independent on two different aspects, right? Like, do you have a budget? Is one question. If you don't have a budget, why are you making so many variations? If you have a budget, then shouldn't you spend equal amount of money or at least equal amount of opportunity across all creatives, right? So it clearly is based on the opportunity of what we want to do. For us, we really go individual across all the creatives. We group them together. I'm also going to cover that in my upcoming testing framework, which I'll show you. But it's always a mix. If something flexible is definitely not the first option, flexible is the last option. A lot of it is either grouping them together and testing them out and then scaling whatever is working. For example, both the top of the variations we don't test in individual assets. We give them together just to understand or do a A/B test on what's working. All the MOFs go together now, divided between all the five are MOF. We don't do that in one singular ad set. But the variable here is the timeline. So the 30 seconds would go in one ad set. The 12 seconds would go in another ad set. No, they are on ABO. So I'm going to give pauses for the questions. I know I'm breaking it out, but I'm actually covering all these questions in the upcoming. So we'll do like 2 Q&As where I know when to pause to give you time to answer your questions. Then it'll make sense. So because as I'll move forward, all these answers you'll already see in the presentation, which is covered. Also in the interest of time, please. Thanks. So that's on the static view of which completes my funnel, right? Now, this is what is a solid testing framework for me, right? For me, testing is just not at a funnel level. The testing is about how you are impacting your entire funnel. Where is the consumer starting? Where is the consumer ending? And what's the journey that the consumer is going through? That is how you need to control. That is a testing framework. Now, again, questions about ABO, CBO, dynamic, flexible, that's all is variables. That is what you need to test, right? That's what you need to integrate these into those structures, test one thing at a time, and then you will see what's working for you. Because not everything works in a flexible, not everything works in a CBO. There is no set rule which creative works in which campaign structure. Until you find your winning creatives, that is when you like really double down on wherever you want to do. I'll also show a testing framework that we do. Like an entire ad account framework that we usually follow. That will also answer a lot of your questions. Right now, all of you guys should write this down, which says using post ID effectively, because what I'm not covering in this slide is how to make a post ID, because that's the key. You should definitely go Google. There are so many ways you can make a post ID. It's very important on understanding how to do it. I'm just covering on why to do it, right? Now, if you see here, I have just taken references of the brand. There are 70K likes and about 759 comments, 386 shares, about similar 20K, 229 shares. Now, when you're scaling, right, let's say you have tested your creative, what is it that you're going to do? You're going to maybe move that into a CBO, ASC, whatever you're doing. What are you trying to do? What I see usually everybody is trying to do is, okay, I want to now scale this. I will set up my creative once again in this particular campaign. What are you losing? You're losing that entire set of engagement, right? Now, again, if you look at your buying pattern, if everybody is very deeper into execution, you'll understand Meta automatically highlights something called as relevant comments, right? The reason it is highlighting is because they want your post to be engaging. Now, every single time you create a fresh ad and push it in your ads, that social proof is not really being transferred. It is always considered as a new ad and as a fresh ad ID, which is not. I mean, you must have seen situations, right? यार ABO पे चल रहा है, लेकिन ASC पे नहीं चल रहा है, CBO पे नहीं चल रहा है, right? While there could be 100 different reasons, I am sure one of the top 10 reasons should be very poor engagement on your performing ad also. So how to make a post ID? you guys please put an effort and learn. But why is because once the ad is getting an extreme high amount of social engagements, you need to ensure you are extracting that same post ID and use it across your scaling campaign. So your engagement, your budget, and the learning, especially which the ad has gathered during your testing, the audience learning that the ad has gathered, that keeps continuing when you're pumping down your budgets, right? Like when you're pumping up your budgets, that does matter the entire engagement. So using post IDs effectively, we have been doing, I mean, I have like a team of about 3 young kids who wants to learn meta ads, and the first 6 months they just sit and create post IDs. That's their job, right? Because if you are understanding the, because once they understood the why, that's the key at execution level that we are able to do, then the entire, everything that we are trying to experiment actually makes our job easier, and our success rate just generally increases by 10-15% just by this one step. So it's social proof, which is very important. It also, the consumer is also like, because it's like, isn't it like reviews on your website? Like आपका website में जब आप जाके reviews देखते हो, this social engagement is also extremely same, right? I have seen a lot of people like ask, like the brand loyalists usually, right? They come and they start answering, no, this has really worked for me. I have taken this, it's going to take time, but be at it. I'm telling you, the organic engagement and the interactions that happen also do matter a lot, which the post IDs would definitely solve for us. Now, the question, right? What are the optimal number of ad sets that you need to do, right? Now, just going back on this segment, is there a set rule? Like, if you must have really spoken to a lot, everybody must have spoken at least once to a Meta rep, and if you had a conversation about Advantage Plus shopping campaign, they would say, please dump all your ads in a one single this thing, right? And that's the most shittiest suggestion that I've ever received from anybody, right? Because like how we were discussing the placements, there's also format split that really does matter, right? So whenever you're deciding your campaign structure, instead of number of ads, the very first thing is what is your format of ad that you're trying to do. That's one thing you'll also have to take into consideration, that hey, I'm having like 5 statics and 3 videos. That's when grouping comes into play. You put all your 5 statics together and you put all your 3 videos together. I mean, for us, usually anywhere between 3 to 5 worked out very well. A lot of times what I've seen also is, for example, let's take this static into consideration, right? Now, there is at least some amount of differentiation between the objective, right? A bit of different background, a bit of different, like a testimonial versus hook. A lot of times, I see what brands do is they just change that background color and they're like, can we test this? I think does that impact today? Yes, that's when you have extreme level of high amount of budgets and then you are okay to kind of test it. But when you're in an urgency to make something win, don't go deeper in trying to test a background color. Rather trying to go in testing what's the objective of the creative or what you're trying to communicate with the consumer. Now that's when your grouping will really help. And according to me, I mean, when I do audits, I see like 1 ad per ad set also, right? Is it great? Yes. But then what about your learning phase? Are you able to exit that 50 purchases that is required by Meta for it to go to the active level? Are you giving enough options for it to play around, right? So every single time, I would ideally say anywhere between 3 to 5 ad sets is the best possible scenario, which will, I mean, about 7 out of 10 times there is a 100% probability that you are able to find a winning ad within that. Anything more, anything less is always a 50-50. Anything more is always a failure, according to me. Again, this is my personal bias. But anything less, it wins for a period of time, but then the longevity of that particular ad set obviously reduces when you are not really having variations or able to feed in variations within the ad set. Again, the whole piece about audience versus creative, right? So, again, right, every fine morning, at least in a week, I hear from a founder, like quite exactly like me and Krishna were on a call yesterday at 8 p.m. We are selling a fashion brand. She sells about 8,000 rupees of dresses. I've been working with her for 3 years. And yesterday,
few last couple of months have been a bit slow. So it's like, what kind of audience interests are we targeting?
right? That was the question she asked me. And I said, Meghna, are you really concerned about what audience am I going after, or are you really concerned about the sales? Right? Because every single time when this question comes up, right, my team sits and they churn out all the interest. And are you doing anything amazing? No. Everybody here, tell me who is not used engaged shoppers as an interest, frequent international travelers as an interest, right? All of us know that 5-6 interests everybody are using and we are going after. Nobody is really going to make a difference in audience testing, honestly, right? मैं इतना ये करूँगा वो करूँगा नहीं boss. It's not like really there's no differentiation in audience today because it's a characteristic that got defined, and that's where every one of us in this room are going after. So is it going to make a difference? Maybe for a beginner brand, yes, it definitely makes a difference because that's where you're signaling, right? Like, you don't want to go after somebody who is at a lower AOV, right? You don't want to go after somebody who is slightly not understanding. For example, Pilates as an interest, I'm not sure how many of you have tested it out. Whenever we are going after a high ticket new brand, vegan, Pilates, people who are into, sort of these high level activity like pickleball and stuff like that. Those are a few very high ticket consumers that you can find through Meta, which will help you signal Meta that, hey, these are kind of people I'm going after. Can you find me someone relevant in this audience segment? Because my idea or opportunity is, if I signal you right, I am going to go broad only. The day you figure out that these interests are slightly, I'm signaling you're able to give me purchases, my next step is, boss, I'm going to go broad. Because Meta now knows what's the signaling of who the audience is, right? Because maybe about a year or a year and a half year old also, if a brand is doing about 10,000 to 20,000 purchases and acquired that many amount of purchases in a year, I totally believe that Meta is capable of finding your audiences. When everybody says go broad, what are you largely trying to do, right? You're doing pull marketing, so you're just trying to bet on a few groups of audiences, so your reach would start exponentially increasing, and then you will get the cream audiences out of the people that you're reaching. So audiences, will it make a difference? I totally think it's a no. But to get paid and to satisfy a client, we still put about 5 to 8% of a budget for interest-based targeting. But that's also very optional. Like, I mean, the idea is very objective, is very simple, right? If you've been a 3-year-old brand, I don't see any interest-based targeting is largely going to move the needle also in any which way. So for me, because whenever we see like a audit for a brand who is spending like 30,000-40,000 rupees a day, oh my god, I see like 10 different ad sets, and each ad set will have like 7-8 interests, everything separated. Inside that is the same creative, that same 3 creatives spread across 30 ad sets, and nothing is working out, right? Rather, put everything together and just have 5 ad sets with 5 different creators and happy about it, right? Because what I see when I see that setup is, boss, you're the one of the reasons why my performance is not working, because you are spending money on Meta, trying to reach out to my customer in a wrong way, and because of you, my CPM is also increasing, right? So if all of us together in this room can come to a consensus and we'll be like, hey, we'll go broad, we'll just play on a creative. I'm telling you, collectively for all the brands that we are at least handling, our CPM will come down, right? So the larger goal is, can you really optimize at a creative and don't worry about audiences, right? At least Meta today, with the kind of purchase data it has evolved, and it is going to make a difference, right? A lot of times, again, a few of the, it usually happens in the agency spaces where a couple of months go slow, the client goes out to another agency, they get an audit. Even Naman was also mentioning that, people get audits from us and they go and implement the strategies. And a couple of times, Naman, what I see is they say, no, you should write engaging ad copies. you should write engaging headlines. Boss, who are you reading? Like, I asked the client, do you even care about what ad copy before you're clicking? Nobody cares about it. But it's a very basic stuff that it is required. Just have it there. A very small copy which speaks about what the creative is. You have it there, we're good. We really no need to. I mean, those are going to make a difference. It's less than 1% according to me. So that's one of the most important pieces that I would say again. Audience as creative, 100% focus on the creative, right? So this is for one of our skincare brands. This is last 90 days data. We use a software called Motion to kind of analyze our entire creative performances. You can also use Meta. There's a creative report thing that's been done. What I'm trying to imply over here, if you see, is even now, my majority of the spends is on videos, right? But that's at a 1.88 ROS for me. Now, I want you to go back. I want you to see what's your format split. This brand started moving for me like this. It's been almost about 2.5 years. I started working with this brand. It's called Aminu.life, AMINU.life. I want you to go check out, do an add to cart and leave. See the kind of retargeting funnels that you get into. See the kind of ads that you get targeted with, especially women, men, and we're not targeting you, I'm sorry. But women, I want you guys to please check it out, because how we are trying to make a difference is through carousels. Look at the kind of ROS a carousel is bringing. Look at the kind of ROS image is bringing. Look at the kind of an ROS the catalog is bringing. DPA and DABA is called dynamic product ads, and that's the game changer that we have figured out. That hey, can we actually bid across placements and just not stick to a singular video format ad and just try to expect conversions? That is not the segment which is going to really make it out. So the differentiation is this: have a mix of formats which will really help you retarget your consumer. Because आप कितना ही videos दिखाओगे ना, like you have 10 videos, you're speaking about top, middle and bottom of the funnel. You are going after those, let's say about 1 lakh audiences only. We are bored, right? For example, I'm sure everybody must know Super You, right? The Ranveer Singh he has launched. I think their launch videos have been amazing, but I got that ad like 10 times, right? But I would also expect someone to show me a carousel, a GIF, whatever it is, but can you just break that pattern for me and show something different where I am just inclined, or which breaks my pattern that I've already seen this. Oh, this is something new, right? That is again why creative volume comes into play. And in creative volume, having a widespread of format of ads is really going to make a varied amount of difference. And this has been proven, right? Like, and I'm telling you, if you will look at the brand's website today, we are operating at a 3,500 AOV, 3 sales a year, and we're able to produce these results at this level of ROS for a skincare brand. And the only sole reason is because, again, we focused quite heavily on the creative. We indexed quite heavily on the audiences, that these are the audiences that we are going after, and we need to speak to them about these particular pain points that they would see. And that's how we are solved. Yes, I'm over-indexing on my videos, but that's my awareness, and rest everything is my retargeting, right? So, moving forward, so these are the kind of ads that are working very well since the last about 4-5 months for me. So the first one is a grid style ad. Instead of just like a boring catalog ad that you're trying to do, there are ways where you can optimize your first ad to a grid style ad, and we that this is going to make a difference, because within a single frame you're able to show multiple formats. That's not a typo. It's actually EGC, which is the next upgrade for UGC, which is called employee generated content. What an employee generated content means is basically you have a couple of content creators in-house who are your employees, who would sit and it's only 15 minutes more. Yes, I'm sorry. No, I'll just wrap it up very quick. EGC is basically employee generated content. one another thing that we are really finding it better in fashion is relatability, right? Indian women body types are different. Like there is there's differentiation in terms of the style of ads, the style of dresses and fashion that goes through. If the same person is trying to show you multiple styles, because it's like the shopkeeper system, right? It's the same shopkeeper. How many number of customers come? It's the same product that you're trying to show. If one person is showing all the styles everybody is wearing, the conversion rates are massive, right? So employee generated content is actually working out well. They start related to it. This is working for brands where the founders can't be a face. Unfortunately, 40% of fashion brands in India are being run by men, so men can't obviously wear dresses. So that's when employee generated content is coming in play. And founder ads, I think it's been in the market for almost about a year now. It's absolutely great. That's another skincare brand we work with, and she does amazing stuff. And she has built her own brand through her face, which largely is now being replicated across multiple level of skincare brands, right? The next one is basically negative hook ads. Again, start with a negative hook, justify it, and give them a call to action. That's one thing which is working out. Ugly ads, I believe it. Barry has came up with like a very fluke thing, but it today there are researches about how Gen Z are preferring lo-fi ads, like very basic. You do an ad like this and you're putting it to the like very, it's intrigued creating ads, and then they're coming onto your website and then you can retarget them. Us versus them is a very common format. The other thing that's also working out is multiple people speaking, and you show like a collage ad of multiple cuts. So all of these are quite a few winning format ads that are working out well. These are very basic stuff again, but very high important. One thing is implementing proper buying exclusions. If you're running a top of the funnel, please exclude your purchases data, because if you're not excluding your purchases, you end up getting purchases. You will suddenly see that, okay, my frequency on a top of the funnel ad is about a 5. It's because you don't have exclusions and it is only going to go after your existing customers. So exclusions are something which is very important. And even in your Advantage Plus shopping campaigns, please have 0% customer budget cap if it is required. Maybe anywhere between a 1 to 5% if it is required if you are running a different concept or so. But I would really want you to double click entirety of it on exclusions. The next thing, I think while we are doing the panel discussion also, we are speaking about the click and view through conversions. So in your dashboard, when you click on breakdown, you'll see something called as compare attribution settings, and you need to understand what's a view through conversion, what is a click conversion, and what's a 7-day click conversion, right? So majority of the times you optimize for 7-day click, 1-day view. Why are you doing it? How are you, what's the objective that you're trying to do is also something which you need to take into consideration. One quick tip that has really worked for me is 0 to 800 rupees, 1-day click, impulse purchase, works great. 800 to 2500, 7-day click, works great. Anything about 2500 rupees, 7-day click, 1-day view. If you start looking at your attribution from a AOV, POV, like average order value, from that perspective, if you start dividing your attribution, that's going to be fantastically doing well. CBO versus ABO. I'll just, if you guys can, I'll just quickly summarize what I'm going to speak out, because I'm very interested to show you the testing structure which is working out. Very simply, ABO, testing, CBO, scaling. Just stick to that basic. I'm telling you, if you trust me, stick to that basic, it's going to work well. Don't really fidget around trying to test your creatives around CBO and all of these things. It's a longer timeline. Put your entire focus on one ABO, creative testing. It is the pathway, that's the larger pathway that's going to work through. I don't want to justify it because this title is about justification, but I'm concluding that ABO is for testing and CBO is for scaling. This is a game changer. Look at Advantage Plus shopping campaigns as your hybrid campaigns. I would love to show you on a few after the session. I have Advantage Plus shopping campaigns which have given me like 13,000 purchases, and we've spent like a couple of crores just on one single Advantage Plus shopping campaigns. Again, what made a difference is a creative, right? Because an Advantage Plus shopping campaign also acts as your top of the funnel campaign and also as your retargeting campaign, because you're going to set your audiences these are my engaged audiences, these are my new existing customers. When you're setting it, it's technically a hybrid campaign. So if you're having more general video ad creators that go through your Advantage Plus shopping campaigns, the lifetime of those particular creators are going to be extremely higher and it will work for you. So if you want your Advantage Plus shopping campaigns to actually work, again, put a thought around creative. Don't put your top of the funnel creatives or a lot of times I see, oh, okay, Advantage Plus shopping campaign is working great. I'll put all my 10% of creatives for first time customer acquisition in an ASC. That is never going to work because I don't know the context of what my product is, but I'm seeing a 10% off ad just out of nowhere for a brand that I don't even know, right? So your objective with Advantage Plus shopping campaign is hybrid campaign structure, which means your creative should be relevant for a top of the funnel audiences and should also be relevant for a middle and bottom of the funnel audiences. That setup and structure is how your Advantage Plus shopping campaigns would work great. Yeah, so this is what I wanted to show. This is this month's screenshot I just took today in the morning while I was updating. And this is only for one particular brand, for one particular of their category. That is what we are pushing towards. The idea is very simple, right? This is a ABO campaign, which I'm using for testing. Anything that comes in, either I get 2, 3, 1 creative, whatever it is, try to figure it out, test everything in a testing campaign. I then have whatever is working and flowing in here goes to that CBO campaign, which is more. And if you also see the timeline, right? We started this campaign on 20/0/25, and then we, based on how our winners have kicked in, we then started the CBO on 4/03/25. So that's how we layered the campaigns on this entire piece. This is my standard retargeting campaign. In this, we only target video viewers. We don't have any bottom of the funnel audiences, which is our website visitors and add to carts and initiate checkouts. Because like I said, these are my two categories, right? So tops is a category. I have 2 for triple N and 3 for triple N as 2 separate breakdowns. The testing for both the categories happen here, but the scaling happens individually. And these are constant that I keep it over here. Now, middle and bottom of the funnel is just video view audiences that we kind of keep refreshing every single time and we start showing fresh set of ads. And then I have one for my existing customers separately, because in both my ASCs, my existing customer budget cap is 0, because I also want to show my existing customers what are the new styles that I'm having. So that's how I'm running my retention campaigns. And then a constant catalog campaign that we keep running, which is again in the ASC. One important thing is never mix formats in Advantage Plus shopping campaigns, right? If you're having a catalog, have a separate campaign. If you're having a videos, if you have a bunch of videos, have a separate campaign. If you have statics, have a separate campaign. Mixing them together is always a learning phase for the campaign, because your CPM on a video versus your CPM on a static is again going to vary, and it is always going to struggle to optimize. That is again not a very long-term strategy. All your meta reps would say, put 100 creators for ASC, and please, for God's sake, it is never going to work. Right? And another thing, how many ASCs are too many ASCs? There is no set logic for it. Initially, when they introduced, there were limitation for 8 ASCs. We have accounts where we are running at least 20 plus ASCs and nothing is broken. It works like a charm. It's just, again, like I said, group everything together and it works like a charm, right? So there's no limitation on ASC. But again, don't try to run each individual creative on an ASC. That is again a very broken system. Think of ASC as trying to group everything together and giving one particular learning for that particular, for one particular objective is what you're trying to attain, is what I would say. Now, closing and giving lead to Shubhro, who's going to set the context. Now, while we have spoken about all the basics, right, like the event today is about first party data, right? What exactly does first party data do and what are we trying to achieve, right? Generally, I'll go to the next slide, this will help you understand. Basically, you have a user where your browser captures the data and it is sent back to the analytical platform. What we are trying to do is there is a user, the data is put up in a server, and then you are trying to send it back to the analyticals and the ad platform, because the advantage is how many number of times the consumer is coming in, where is the consumer coming in, and there are ad blockers, there are now, I mean, a very simple example, right? When you do Instagram, when you click on an ad in Instagram, it doesn't take you to a browser. It's an in-app browsing, and that's where the entire checkout happens. How are you sure that your data is being actually sent back to Meta, right? There is always data loss. That's where customer labs and that's where first party data comes in place, where customer labs is largely trying to solve for all of us today. We are doing some immense crazy experiments across, trying to optimize only for COD orders. Sorry, trying to optimize only for prepaid orders, trying to optimize for high AOV orders. So there are different level of variations that you are training your model that this is my consumer, this is my objective, and this is the result that I'm expecting for you. It is then going to overflow that way, right? So in the interest of time, I'll take 5 minutes Q&A, and please let me know if you guys have any questions. I'm happy to answer, and we'll take up on the next session.
Yeah. I had a question. You just said that Advantage Plus is basically working for top of the funnel.
It's hybrid.
It's hybrid, but what I've seen is that whenever we are using Advantage Plus or PMax, right, it doesn't go to a different niche to get us the audience. Like for example, we were running video action campaigns, right? We are into home and garden. We did an interest-based targeting for bridal wear, people who are looking for designer lehengas and all. Completely different category than us. So with these PMax and Advantage Plus coming in, these kind of audience is becoming very difficult to target, especially with video action campaigns actually going away.
Right. So again, just try to understand that India today operates at a 1800 or 3000 rupees AOV. That's where is a impulse. Matlab, why is quick commerce successful is because that's the ticket value they're operating at. Even though they say that there is PS5 availability, you don't sell like 100 PS5s in a day, right? Just in double clicking on the example that you said, bridal lehengas and all of that easily come anywhere between a 8 to a 15,000 rupees price point, right? ASC is never going to work out at a very, very higher average order value, and the only reason is you just try to compare your CPM between a Advantage Plus shopping campaign and a manual campaign.
You got it wrong. What I'm saying is that at times when we are looking to expand the ad or scaling, what we see, it becomes very difficult if you are using just AI, right? If you are using Advantage Plus and just PMax, it becomes very difficult to scale it to a different category. Like for example, we are into home and garden. We are not into bridal wear, right? But when we are using an interest where the person we are showing the ad to is from a bridal wear category, to expand the range and increase the scaling, right? That is where it has worked for us, right?
Okay.
So basically we have a home and garden, our containers and everything. So what we have done is we have started showing ads to people who are into bridal wear, who are into like recently we created a few more categories. And then we
So
started
bridal
showing,
wear is your interest-based targeting is what you meant.
yeah. So now, basically, yeah, so bridal wear was the interest which we actually implemented.
Oh, okay.
But now with this PMax and shopping ads actually going away, and this video action campaign going away, the top of the funnel where we were experimenting with different kinds of interest. You said you don't use interest, but I highly disagree with that. So when we are using different kinds of interest-based audience to actually shortlist and create the topo, which these PMax and Advantage Plus are very good converters.
Yeah.
Right? They are very good with converters. They'll give you a ROS of 10, they'll give you a ROS of 12 if they are used as converters and not for the top of the funnel. So the top of the funnel in Facebook as well as in Google. In Google I was using YouTube, video action campaigns which are again going away.
Yeah.
And in Facebook I'm not finding an option because in Facebook again if I'm using awareness campaigns, it doesn't work out.
Yeah, because you don't have a tangible output for the same.
Right. So how do I create the tofu with different kind of interest-based audience?
See, again, let's say I understand it might be a home decor segment that you're going after. Are you experimenting with catalog? Are you also?
We are doing all that. We are doing all that.
Yeah, so I mean, my go-to thing, at least what I understood, again, see, like I said, right, interest-based is something which is something where we are not away from because we are very high on creative volume. Maybe do you want to double down on your creative volume and try to do that? That's one thing I
That is
would
something
say.
we are anyway doing.
Yeah.
Doubling out, we have a lot of creative coming in. But at times when we are using any kind of, any kind of, whether it is PMAX or Advantage Plus, right? The problem comes in the fact is, it's not like, for example, we are into home and garden. It will show our ads only to people in home and garden. But to scale the ad, at times we want to push it to people who are not just interested in home and garden. No one is going to search for tea, coffee, sugar containers, right? So that search entire thing goes out for me.
Yeah.
Google Shopping goes out for me.
Yeah.
So basically, it should be in front of him, and if he likes it, he buys it.
Yeah.
Right? Now, when we are using any kind of AI-based performance, let us say it is Advantage Plus or maybe PMAX, right? It will show to people who are interested in that category.
Yeah.
But when we are trying to scale, we want to add people from different niches, right? Like for example, someone is looking for maybe a designer wedding lehenga, right? They can also purchase our product, right? Now when I'm trying to target that audience, right? I was doing that up till now. I was doing it through what we say video action campaigns, but Google is removing the video action campaigns.
Hey, sorry, just 2 more minutes. You guys want to continue offline?
We'll chat on it separately. We'll spend some time together
So
on
the
that.
questions, practically you can talk about concepts. Individualized questions, we can take it offline, but you can talk about the concepts. Okay, this is what a situation. How can I do it? Okay, so any questions you have around the concepts, they're happy to do it. If you have very specific requirements, feel free to have it offline, purely because of interest of the time. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. So first of all, very nice presentation, and you just hit on the spot creative testing. So
Thanks.
we are like experiencing like 2022. That's where it all started. More on creative, less on audience. So 100% with you on that. I am facing one challenge as an agency. We have, let's say, multiple people who are in media buying, who are in creatives. So most of the time, what challenge we face, the creative strategist and media buyers, because you can't put the two person in one. If we do that, they mix up the things. So what we do, we have different creatives and different media buyers. Do you use any certain template, reporting, anything internally which you use to manage your team, your clients, and you get consistent feedback from your media buyers to the creatives and creative to the media buyer, so that they know what to test, what's the feedback, and what's the next step?
Creative strategy is the new media buying.
Exactly, but there must be some I'm talking
Yeah,
about
I mean-
some execution level. If you have something, or
Yeah, I
you
mean,
can
it's,
share something.
I'm happy to like kind of show what we are trying to do, but if a media buyer is not a creative strategist, it is not going to work out. The reason why we as an agency are always boutique is because I don't have an account manager, I don't have a creative strategist. It's just one media buyer and a junior media buyer, where the junior sits and executes what the senior says, and the senior's responsibility is look at your data, trying to figure out what creatives next, give the requirement to the client, and just get it on. Because an account manager can't decide the urgency of a creative. Only the media buyer would know what's the urgency of the creative, right? Like they'll be able to prioritize, right? So you need to cut the slack. The new agency system is you don't need to work with 100 clients. You work with 5 clients, but have like 5 members dedicated to each of the client. Also, that's a very successful model that will work with templates. See, I mean, it's very customized. The briefs are different for a lot of people. We use tools like Motion, Artria, where we kind of do research, try to sort of have a reporting system in place. It's very unique depending upon the scale and the size, but I'm happy to share like a few general templates for sure.
Hi. You showed the template where you cut down your 90 seconds into 330
Yeah,
seconds.
yeah,
And
yeah.
you mentioned that suppose your average view time is 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So I missed out on how do you then optimize it for people to see the entire creative.
No, I mean, like nobody's, to get a 19-second watch time is absolutely insane. That cannot happen. But the idea is, 100% watch time is only 10% of the audience who are going to watch, right? So for them is what the 90-second cut is. We'll just look at what's the 25, 50, 75, 90 and 100% drop off rate is. Based on that timing is when you need to start your hook set so that they continue watching the rest of the video.
Okay, so suppose half of your audience is dropping.
Is dropping off at 25. So let's say 10, 15 seconds. After that, so you try to place your hook anywhere between that 15 to 25 second cut. See what's the most impactful ones. That's a gut feeling that you need to take. Okay, this is a very strong pointer. I'll give this first and then you again continue the video.
And that's the second creative for you.
Yes, that's the follow-up creator that you kind of will again.
Very clever.
Yes. Sorry guys, Vishnu is like really behind me. So one or two more questions.
One
more question.
One final
Yes,
question.
one last question.
One final question. I'm extremely sorry. Anybody? One final question?
Average order value.
I'm speaking to you. I'll just take somebody's question. Yeah.
Hi, Chandra. So I
I never knew I was in this demand. Thank you.
So recently, I'm facing a challenge while like we are already implementing a lot of strategy we have shown so far, like all the creatives, all the and everything that we are organizing. So my brand and the clients that I have, they are very brand conscious. They are very kind of a high ticket clients and all. So like recently, the challenge that I'm facing is with the flexible media or the AI enhancement within that while we're setting up the page. So what exactly happening? So sometimes it is like distorted. I'll be like delivered by the meta. So what I'm doing right now is like turning off all the AI enhancements through like particularly from the platform. But maybe what I personally feel it is impacting the kind of performance too. Ultimately, it is like limiting. And again, meta is like kind of a let's say like focusing on the AI part. So they're pushing it more. So I think like, that's the challenge I'm facing right now.
See, I don't think they'll like all those, adding music, adding a lot of those things are really going to make an impact today. And the only reason is because our creative output versus Meta's understanding. For example, on a fashion brand, they were doing like shipping music of Indian heritage cultural music on a fast fashion brand, right? So the AI is still learning, I believe. We are at least about a year away for us to use those level of optimizations. We totally go all out, like no, not even a multi-advertiser ad, not even relevant comments, nothing. Entire optimizations are off and we do the manual setup. We have tried it with all the optimizations on. Honestly, we didn't see like a bad performance. I'll be absolutely honest. It's not bad. But like you said, right, they're brand conscious and it just is, I don't want to sit and explain and convince a client that why I have to use these AI optimizations, rather I'll switch them off because there's not going to be a larger impact on my performance.
Thanks, Manu. It's been really amazing, and this guy is amazing. Yeah, really.